My parents took my wardrobe for punishment, but I didn't care about it. When my parents took away almost all my clothes, makeup, and accessories, they thought they were teaching me a lesson. I was left with nothing but three plain shirts, three pairs of jeans, and a coat, stripped of my personal style as punishment. But instead of feeling humiliated, I realized something unexpected. What happens when a punishment meant to control you actually sets you free? Now, my parents are furious, not because I misbehaved again, but because I refused to take back what was never really mine. When my parents took away almost all my clothes, makeup, and accessories, they thought they were teaching me a lesson. I was left with nothing but three plain shirts, three pairs of jeans, and a coat, stripped of my personal style as punishment. But instead of feeling humiliated, I realized something unexpected. What happens when a punishment meant to control you actually sets you free? Now, my parents are furious, not because I misbehaved again, but because I refused to take back what was never really mine. It all started when I got caught smoking weed with a guy after school. It was a one-time thing, but that didn't matter to my parents. They saw it as a complete moral failure, a sign that I was heading down some rebellious, dangerous path. And to make things worse in their eyes, I had also made out with him a couple of times. That was enough for them to come down hard on me, not just with a lecture or grounding, but by stripping away something deeply personal, my identity. Fashion had always been more than just clothes to me. It was how I expressed myself, how I played with who I wanted to be each day. I loved experimenting with colors, layering accessories, matching my makeup to my outfits. It made me feel creative, confident, like I had control over how the world saw me. And suddenly, all of it was gone. I remember standing in my nearly empty closet, staring at the pathetic little pile of clothes left behind. Three plain black shirts, three pairs of simple jeans. No patterns, no textures, no personality. My shoes? Gone. My purses? Taken. My makeup, the carefully curated collection I had spent years building? Vanished. It felt like they hadn't just taken away my things, they had erased a piece of me. My mom told me I had to earn it all back. If I behaved, if I proved I was trustworthy, they would return my wardrobe piece by piece, as if I was a child who had lost the privilege of playing with her toys. It wasn't about teaching me responsibility or consequences, it was about control. They wanted me to feel small, powerless, ashamed. At first, I did feel humiliated. I dreaded walking into school dressed in the same outfit every day, expecting whispers and judgment. But then something strange happened. No one cared. My friends already knew what had happened, and they didn't treat me any differently. When classmates asked why I was always wearing the same thing, I told them the truth, and instead of laughing, they just nodded. Some even seemed uncomfortable on my behalf, realizing how extreme my parents had been. And so, the punishment started to lose its power. Instead of feeling embarrassed, I started to feel free. I didn't have to think about what to wear in the morning. I didn't have to stress over which accessories matched best. I didn't have to spend extra time perfecting my makeup. I was just existing, and for the first time, I realized how much energy I had spent trying to impress others. But that wasn't the most important realization. The real moment of clarity came when I understood that my parents had never really given me those things. They had only ever loaned them to me. Because if something truly belongs to you, it can't be taken away on a whim. The clothes, the makeup, the carefully picked out outfits, they were never really mine. They were privileges, things dangled in front of me as rewards for good behavior, things that could be snatched away the second I did something they disapproved of. That's when I decided I didn't want them back. If I was going to rebuild my wardrobe, it would be on my own terms, with my own money, with clothes that no one else could take from me. My parents thought their punishment would make me desperate to earn their approval again. Instead, it made me realize I don't need it at all. I had expected to feel miserable. When my parents took away my wardrobe, I thought every day would be a struggle, standing in front of my mirror, frustrated with the plain, lifeless outfits I had left. I thought I would feel self-conscious at school, like a walking billboard for my parents' disappointment. But instead, something unexpected happened. At first, the routine was strange. Mornings used to be my favorite part of the day, when I could pick an outfit that made me feel good, choose accessories that fit my mood, and do my makeup like an artist perfecting their canvas. Now there was no choice. I threw on one of my three identical black shirts and a pair of jeans. That was it. No color, no statement, no creativity. I expected to feel trapped, like a shadow of myself, but what I actually felt was relief. There was no pressure anymore. no second guessing my choices. No standing in front of my closet, trying on 3 different outfits before settling on one. No worrying about whether my makeup looked perfect or if my shoes matched my bag. Everything was stripped down to the basics, and for the first time in a long time, I realized how exhausting it had been to always try to present the best version of myself. At school, I thought people would stare, whisper, judge, but instead my friends just shrugged. They already knew the situation, and to them, I was still me. A few classmates asked about it, and I answered honestly. My parents took away my clothes as punishment. That usually shut them up. Some looked uncomfortable, others just nodded and moved on. No one laughed. No one treated me differently. I realized then that all the stress I had put into curating my appearance, making sure I looked a certain way, was something I had created in my own head. People weren't as focused on me as I had thought. I wasn't being scrutinized, I wasn't being judged. And if anyone did think less of me for wearing the same thing every day, that wasn't my problem, it was theirs. More than that, I started noticing how much time I was saving. Mornings were effortless. I could sleep in longer because I wasn't standing in front of my mirror deciding what to wear. I didn't need to worry about accessories or coordinating colors. My routine was stripped to the bare minimum, and instead of feeling lost without my usual comforts, I felt lighter. It made me think about all the hours I had spent worrying about my appearance before. The days when I would stress over whether my outfit was trendy enough, whether my makeup was flawless, whether people would notice if I repeated a look too soon. And for what? To impress people who didn't even care? My parents had taken my clothes away as a form of punishment, but they had accidentally given me something else instead: clarity. They wanted me to feel ashamed, to beg for my wardrobe back, to prove myself worthy of looking nice again. But all they had really done was show me that I didn't need their approval, or even my old way of thinking, to be okay. The simplicity they forced on me didn't break me, it freed me. As the weeks passed, my new reality started to feel normal. I no longer woke up dreading my outfit choices because there were no choices to make. I stopped thinking about makeup, accessories, and shoes because they simply weren't an option. And most surprisingly, I didn't miss them. What had once felt like an essential part of who I was had now become something I barely thought about. But there was still a lingering frustration beneath it all. Not because I had lost those things, but because of how easily they had been taken from me in the first place. I started looking at my past wardrobe differently. Before, I saw it as a collection of things that expressed who I was. Now, I realized it had never really belonged to me at all. My parents had bought those clothes, gifted me that makeup, encouraged me to dress well and present myself a certain way. But in doing so, they had held the ultimate control over those things. The moment I stepped out of line, they proved it wasn't mine, it was theirs. The more I thought about it, the more disgusted I felt. I didn't want things that could be used against me. I didn't want to wear clothes that had become a tool for control, a weapon to punish and manipulate me. How could I put on those outfits again, knowing they had been taken away to shame me? How could I wear that makeup knowing it had been used as a bargaining chip to make me obey? I couldn't. When my parents finally told me I could start earning back my things, I didn't feel excitement. I didn't feel relief. I felt nothing. I looked at the boxes they had packed everything into, stored away in the attic like a vault of privileges I had lost, and all I could think was, I don't want any of it. So I told them. I don't want the clothes back, I said plainly. You've made it clear they were never really mine to begin with. At first, my mom laughed, like I was just being dramatic. My dad rolled his eyes and told me to stop being ridiculous. But I stood my ground. It's gross to me, I continued. Wearing something that was taken away as punishment, then handed back like I should be grateful. If I'm going to have things, I want them to actually belong to me. Not something you can take away whenever you feel like it. That was when my mom got mad. She couldn't understand why I was refusing, why I was letting perfectly good clothes go to waste. She said it was selfish, ungrateful, that the family had spent money on those things and now I was acting like I was too good for them. But it wasn't about being too good for anything. It was about wanting ownership over my own life. I had already lost interest in wearing those old clothes, but after that conversation, I knew for certain I would never wear them again. They weren't mine. They never had been. And I didn't want them anymore. If I was going to rebuild my wardrobe, it would be on my terms. With my own money, my own choices. No one would ever be able to take them away from me again. I thought my refusal would be the end of it. That once I made it clear I didn't want the clothes back, my parents would drop the subject and move on. But I underestimated just how much control over me they thought they still had. At first, they tried to reason with me as if I was just being stubborn for the sake of it. My mom sat me down and told me I needed to be practical. "You already have these clothes," she said. "Why would you go spend money on new ones when you can just take these back?" But that was exactly the point. I don't want something that was only ever mine when it was convenient for them. I told her that, and she didn't like my answer. "But we spent so much money on those clothes," she snapped. "You're being wasteful." That was when I realized this had nothing to do with the clothes themselves. If it was about practicality, they could donate them. If it was about the money, they could sell them. But no, that wasn't why they were upset. They weren't mad about wasted clothes. They were mad because, for the first time, I wasn't letting them dictate how I lived. They wanted me to take the clothes back because that would mean I was still under their control, that their punishment worked, that I had learned my lesson and was ready to fall back in line. But I wasn't. The more they argued with me, the clearer it became that this wasn't just about clothes. My dad tried a different approach, accusing me of being ungrateful. "We gave you all of that, and this is how you repay us? By acting like it was some kind of prison sentence?" I wanted to scream. Yes, actually, that's exactly what it felt like. They didn't just take my things away, they used them as leverage, as a way to break me down and force me into obedience. But what they didn't realize was that the moment they did that, they made it impossible for me to ever see those things the same way again. I wasn't being ungrateful, I was making a choice. A choice to stop letting them use material things to control me. That night, I heard my mom venting to my dad. "She's being ridiculous," she said, exasperated. "We gave her those things out of love, and now she's just throwing it all back in our faces." I almost laughed at how wrong she was. Love doesn't come with conditions. Love isn't something you take away when someone disappoints you. And love certainly isn't something you pack into boxes and hold hostage until they earn it back. The next day, my mom gave me one last chance. She told me the clothes would stay in the attic for now, in case I changed my mind. But I won't. Those clothes don't feel like mine anymore, and honestly, maybe they never really were. My mom left the conversation with a final offer. My clothes would stay in the attic for now, just in case I changed my mind. It was her way of giving me an out, of letting me quietly surrender without outright admitting I had been wrong. But I wasn't wrong. And I wasn't going to change my mind. The more I thought about it, the more I realized just how much this wasn't about the clothes at all. It was about ownership. About who got to decide what belonged to me, what I was allowed to have, and under what conditions. And the truth was, as long as those clothes sat in that attic waiting for me to earn them back, they were nothing but another leash my parents were trying to keep me on. They thought they had backed me into a corner, that eventually I'd get tired of my plain wardrobe, of looking the same every day, and I'd crawl back, accept their conditions, and take my old life back. But they didn't understand what they had actually done. They had freed me. By taking everything away, they made me see just how much things don't matter when they come with strings attached. They made me realize how little I actually needed to be okay. And most importantly, they taught me the value of having something that's truly mine. So I made a decision. I started saving my money, every little bit I could. Birthday gifts, leftover lunch money, any odd job that would pay me. I refused to ask my parents for a dime. If I was going to rebuild my wardrobe, it would be on my own terms, with my own money. The first thing I bought wasn't a whole outfit. It was just a single shirt. Something simple, but something mine. I can't even describe how different it felt, putting it on. It wasn't about the brand or the style. It was about the fact that no one could take it from me. No one could use it against me. It wasn't a privilege to be earned. It was just mine. Of course, my parents weren't happy when they noticed what I was doing. My mom asked why I was wasting money on new clothes when I had an entire wardrobe in the attic waiting for me. My dad rolled his eyes and called it childish, but I didn't care. "You said I had to earn my things back," I told them. "So I did, just not the way you wanted me to." That was the moment I think they realized they had lost this battle. They had expected obedience, regret, a desperate attempt to make things go back to normal. Instead, they got defiance, independence, and a daughter who wasn't afraid to walk away from what no longer served her. The attic full of clothes is still there, untouched. Maybe one day my parents will donate them. Maybe they'll just sit there collecting dust, but I won't be the one to take them back. Because those clothes aren't mine anymore, and they never really were.